a teacher, and even though my experience was so extraordinary to me, I'm always humbled by the fact that a teacher could command such a large classroom. And so today was just that. It felt like it was a classroom. And as with my students on day one, I didn't know, am I connecting? Am I making sense? Telling stories, are the stories relevant in this culture as they are in my culture? One of the things I learned as a teacher is what we call modeling. If you are always like synthesizing and analyzing what went before and building a bridge of what the next steps are. And I felt he's the perfect teacher, because what he did is he was able to take the best part of each presenter and to reconnect it with us. One of the things that the Freedom Riders and I have done is try to take what we did in my classroom and to scale it up and see if other teachers in other communities, whether it's America or Europe or abroad, can take those same simple lesson plans and do them more effectively and more efficiently and have even greater outcomes. And I think that really goes back to scale. And I think the best example of scale in this conference for me was when Bunker was talking about starting with Barefoot College in India and then going to Africa and the empowerment of those 150 grandmas. That to me, that's the best scalability, is empowering people where they are and taking a great idea, but having it take root in another culture, in another community. And so that's what I'm really hopeful about, is taking our simple lessons from room 203 at Wilson High and have them convert into simple lessons in other classrooms and other communities with other teachers. Maybe not the same scale or impact as Bunker with solar energy, but something along those lines of taking a good idea and sharing it with others, but sharing it in a way that it becomes authentic and a part of the fabric of that community. I think what I've learned, the greatest gift that you can give a student or a child is the gift of belief. If you believe in them, they can overcome anything. And so many students have been given up on, and so many students have no hope and don't see their own potential or promise. And so for me as a teacher, the most important thing was seeing something in my students that they didn't see in themselves. No, it's ironic. Coming to this conference was the most humbling experience, because at the end of the day, I know that my place is in a classroom. I had the opportunity to meet Geese, and she was the woman who saved Anne Frank. And one of my students looked at her, and she'd done these courageous things, and he said, "You're a hero." And she was very upset. She said, "No, I'm not a hero. I simply did what I had to do because it was the right thing to do." And I think as a teacher, that's how I always have felt, that it's the right thing to do. It's a calling. And I think every single person at this conference has done something amazing and heroic. But if you were to ask them if they were a hero, they would probably say, "No, I simply did what I had to do because it was the right thing to do." So to be in the presence of 20 other people who have done the right thing is very awe-inspiring. It didn't start with childhood, but it started with my favorite teacher. And my favorite teacher was not in a classroom. She was actually someone I brought to speak to my students. She's a Holocaust survivor. And she was the same age as my students when she went to Auschwitz. And I remember sitting across from her. She was telling my students her story about riding in a cattle car, going to Auschwitz, losing her entire family in a chimney. And then she stopped and she said to not ever stand idly by. And she went on to say that evil prevails when good people do nothing. And it was this teachable moment where I was the student learning from this woman about the power of voice and the power of standing up for justice and the power of doing something in the face of such atrocity. And I think that was the first lesson that allowed me to dream about not standing by. And I took my students to the same camp that she had gone to Auschwitz. And when we went into the camp, there were all of these homes right next to the concentration camp. And people 50, 60 years later still live at those same homes next to a camp. And you realize they had to have known. How could they not have known? And it really took that lesson she had taught us years ago about evil prevails when good people do nothing. Because I have to believe there are a lot of good people in the world, and if you do nothing, you allow injustice to happen. And so I think my dream is that good people, honest people, simple people, noble people will do something. They won't stand by and allow injustice to happen. And it's something I'm struggling with as a teacher. With 21 minutes, I feel much more like a student than I am a teacher. And for the last 2 days, I've been taking notes and taking the opportunity to really learn from all the speakers. And so for me, I think I'm going to walk away from this experience with such a greater depth of knowledge on so many subjects I had no idea, and great relationships and great networks. And so I've secretly stalked every single speaker, and I've asked them questions that I wish they would have covered on the stage, or that I wish I would have had the courage to ask them when I was sitting in the audience. And so for me, it's makes me feel like it's the best part of going to a university without having to pay tuition or do homework or have a test at the end. It's the best part, I think, of academia.